Kate, I think you said voters vote with what they feel and see, right? And I want to just take us back as to why the SNP was coming from such a low nadir as was the hammering in the general election, as you put it. And I did a little bit of research, unlike me, I know. The Scottish Social Attitudes Survey, 2011, 71% trusted the Scottish Government to act in Scotland's best interests. I chose 2011 because that was the year that, in my opinion, transformed Scottish politics. That led to the majority, that therefore led to the independence referendum, which really did transform Scottish politics in this country. In 2023, the most latest survey we have, results for, it's 47%. That's down 24%. Now, in my opinion, the framing of the next election is going to be key. Anna Sarwar is going to say to you, look at all these things, the delivery, the metrics, they're not going in the direction that we want. To Andy's point, are they achievable in the next 15 months? Our best calling card back then, John, was that we were competent, seen as competent. And you take NHS for one example. 2011, 56% were very or quite satisfied with the way the NHS is run. In 2023, it's 23%. That's a drop of 33%. Why is that? What's gone wrong in the intervening years? Accept the actions that you're taking. I think the most ardent critics would accept that the ship is getting steady. I think your most ardent critics would accept that. But why are we coming from such a low level in 2023?
Well, there's a lot of factors that have, a lot of things have happened in amongst that, Geoff. The cumulative effect of austerity, and this is why I'm prepared to take the tough decisions about tax, why I fought the election campaign on the fact that the public finances had to be restored, is that there's been a lot of delusion about the ability to pursue an austerity agenda and also want high-quality public services. It just doesn't work. It's total rubbish. And if you want an insight into that, I and study the 44 days of the total stupidity that was Liz Truss's Prime Minister. That sums it all up. So don't give me a kind of harangue about, competence in government when a United Kingdom government was able to deliver that total car crash on the whole of the United Kingdom, of which we're still paying the price for all of that. So factors such as the cumulative effect of austerity, the interruption to our health service because of COVID, which, if you look at the 2021 election, the SNP got an outstanding result in the 2021 election. Why? I think because of the way we had stewarded the country through COVID. I think that was the country's expression of confidence in us. We're living with the aftermath of the combination of austerity, Brexit, COVID, and the energy price spike that is coming. And that's what's having an effect on people's confidence. And we've got to address that. That's why, I said, as I've come back into government, I've got government focused on what people are concerned about. Because that's where you start your rebuild from. Because if you understand, if you actually take time to listen to people, and I've spent all my days listening to folk. That's why I sit in village halls in Perthshire every Friday, listening to the people who've given me the honour of representing them, to hear what they're saying. And if you listen to folk, that's where you can start your rebuilding from.
The NHS polling numbers will not be exclusive to Scotland. It will be the same throughout the UK. You said yesterday, actually, in your speech, John, about access being the problem. When you get into the NHS, we're actually very good, and that's true. We've got very good medical schools in this country. We've got very good teaching hospitals. It's actually good when you get in. I think it's an entirely bigger issue. Access is not solved by money. Access is a systemic problem in the NHS, and it needs reform before that can be improved, not money. But what it does come onto, I think, that relates to what you've said, and it really comes onto the whole argument about independence, which we'll get onto now anyway, is that actually the prospects for independence are always best served by a high-performing devolved government. If Scots see their devolved government, a nationalist devolved government, doing well, inevitably they are better disposed towards the possibility of independence. And I think that goes for huge numbers of people in the middle who are not card-carrying nationalists or unionists, who are just people who would pretty much vote for what they think is going to be best for them and their family on balance. Lots of people did that in 2014. and they would do it again. But the best way to turn those people from no voters to yes voters is to just do well in terms of how you run the country.
And just for the avoidance of doubt, that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and in the interest of fairness...
but that hasn't... I mean, that has been going in reverse, right?
Yeah, no...
I think go back. Let's go back to Geoff's comment that even our harshest critics would indicate that the government is sure-footed. It's moving forward. It's got a clear agenda. It's able to communicate. Yeah. Well, we are where we are.
In response to that question, I'm going to look to your advisors behind you. I mean, you really missed the ball here, guys. I mean, look, his response was, confidence in Westminster is much lower than in the Scottish Government in both of those surveys. Much lower, 18 and 21%. But you're much higher, and you're absolutely right. But I think the reason I raise that...
I don't take recourse in these bits of comfort, because that's not good enough for me. And if you watch how I handle First Minister's questions, I don't handle them on that basis.
Yeah, but the reason I raised the question, John, and I accept that point, I'm just more, having a go at your advisors. Because, I used to do that job. But the serious point is, I think this is the framing of the election. So Sawar is going to go for you on your devolved record since 2007. Right, and say things have got worse. And I've always believed that people will turn to the SNP if they're standing up for Scotland's interests, if people feel they are. Now, we've got dated figures here, that's the latest figures we have, and I'm just pointing out the challenge. If you can present that, surely that's going to put you in the strongest position to win the election in 2026.
Well, I don't think data like that is what will turn people's views.
Surely if more people feel that you're standing up for Scotland's interests, the two of you and your government, then you're going to win the election.
Well, of course.
So do you agree that those figures are alarming, therefore?
Well, I'm not... I'm addressing those because of the actions that were taken. I'm also, one of the other things which I felt, when I made my speech to say I was going to come back into the frame down at the Grassmarket community venture, and I got asked a question which was basically on the premise that we've got a poor record as a government, and I responded to that by setting out all the various things of which I'm very proud that the government is doing. So I've just delivered a speech in Parliament today. There's 100,000 children being kept out of poverty, 60,000 of them because of an innovation that we brought in, only us, in Scotland, the Scottish Child Payment. No other part of the United Kingdom is doing it. So we've got that. 1,140 hours of free early learning childcare for 3 and 4 year olds in our country. That's the best early learning childcare offer in the United Kingdom, brought in by this SNP government, sustained. School buildings, you talked about education a second ago. Andy, when the Labour Party left office in 2007, 63% of our school buildings in Scotland were in a satisfactory or good condition. That's over 90%, despite 14 years of austerity under decisions that we took, and principally I took, to make sure that our kids are educated in lovely surroundings.
I just point to attainment levels, as well.
Yes, and attainment levels, Calum, are at the narrowest gap in attainment levels they've ever been at, as a consequence of the actions that were taken.
Where are they in comparison? So if they're at their narrowest gap, where are they compared to 20 years ago for pupils in Scotland?
Well,
Are they more literate now? Are they more numerate now?
Well, you're forgetting it's poverty-related attainment
exactly.
gap.
So I'm talking about the gap.
It's linked to deprivation.
Yeah, exactly.
And whose job is it to fix deprivation?
Well, that's where it's our responsibility to do what we can in terms of Scottish Child Payment. But you have to understand the context. I mean, it's pretty clear that most of the macroeconomic levers are not within our grasp. And also, in terms of most of the welfare powers are not within our grasp. So you can own the things that you're responsible for.
I do think that we can sometimes get... I'm not minimising the importance of school buildings. My kids are in a new one, so it's lovely, right? But what goes on inside them is more important than what they look like on the outside, I think. And actually, ironically, there's not much to talk about in terms of the Tory record in government at Westminster over the last 14 years, but actually... state school level attainment is probably going to be their best legacy of the last 14 years. It has consistently improved in England over the last 14 years by international standards, and ours has not. Ours has gone down, certainly according to PISA, Whether we think Peter's accurate or not is a different
Well,
question.
yeah,
But in fairness, I think we do have to focus more on what's going on inside the buildings than what the buildings themselves are like.
I'm simply giving you an illustration of the record that we've delivered as a consequence of our interventions. And what I'm not going to do, and that's why I cited back to being prepared to go on the front foot to defend our record when I said I was coming back into leadership. I'm not going to sit about and have our record in office denigrated on the way that Geoff has just put to me. That might well be the narrative that I hear. I'm pushing back on that every single occasion it's put to me, because we have got a record. Yeah, of course there are issues that have got to be addressed. Performance has got to be improved. But there's a lot of good stuff has happened as a consequence of the SNP government, and I'll be sharing that with the electorate, which will be an essential part of how we build confidence around us in the 2026 election.